This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. Today is the 48th annual March for Life. It could be the biggest March for Life event ever in terms of impact, with people all over the globe watching the day's events online. My man, Mark Martin, joins us with more. Mark, tell us.
George, the March for Life is the largest annual human rights demonstration in the world. The event marks the day in January 1973 when the U.S. Supreme Court decided in its Roe v. Wade ruling that abortion is a constitutional right. But organizers say it's not just a protest, but a gathering to celebrate life. In the past, the March for Life has brought tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of marchers to Washington, D.C., but not this year. The event is being held virtually. Organizers say it's because of the pandemic and the increased pressure that law enforcement and others are dealing with in and around the Capitol building. The 2021 theme is Together Strong, Life Unites. The president of the March for Life Education and Defense Fund, Gene Mancini, elaborated on the theme during this year's virtual event.
Our theme is meant not only to highlight the unity of our cause, but to also highlight the destructive and divisive reality of abortion. Abortion divides a mother from her child. The abortion industry has deceived women into believing her pregnancy is a disease, that her motherhood means giving up her dreams, and that only abortion will solve her problems. Nothing could be further from the truth.
While most participants will watch the March for Life online, a small group of pro-life leaders from around the country will march to the Supreme Court today. Pro-life organizers, speakers, marchers, and rally-goers will keep holding the march until Roe v. Wade is overturned or the thought of aborting one's own baby becomes unthinkable. Today's rally will be followed this evening by what's called the Rose Dinner Gala, and it will take place virtually tonight at 7 p.m. And Tim Tebow is the keynote speaker. George, back to you.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that report. Many pro-life believers believe the nation has just moved from the most pro-life president to the least. CBN's Paul Strand reports on what they think could happen to their efforts with a new president in the White House.
It's going to be sad. A lot of good that the Trump administration did on the life issue. A lot of those things are going to be rolled back by the Biden administration. We're already seeing that.
Despite this sudden turn in Washington, 40 Days for Life official Steve Carlin sees reason for optimism.
Presidents change, legislators change, judges change, but God never changes. And the pro-life movement, including 40 Days for Life, I think has seen some of our biggest successes with pro-abortion presidents.
We went through 8 years of President Obama, saw abortions reduce and clinics closed. Same with President Clinton.
Maybe those wins came because pro-lifers pray and fight harder during those years. If that's the case, they're going to need that resolve now more than ever. Because with Democrats controlling both houses of Congress and the White House, it means a unified front making abortion more available.
That's unfortunately something the left is really focused on. And I know that in sex education classes and all these things happening in schools, they will definitely be pushing abortion more.
And the push will be for laws to make abortion feel more acceptable and right.
For all the talk that, well, you can't impose your morality via the law, you can't legislate morality, that's exactly what people look to the law to do, to help us do what is right and to help us avoid what is wrong.
One of the movement's goals might go too far, though, if they end the Hyde Amendment, a rule long supported by both sides. That means all American taxpayers would pay for federally funded abortions.
Not just, radical Democrats, but even moderate Democrats, as many maybe think Biden is, want to repeal the Hyde Amendment.
They'll argue that abortion is a right and even a necessity.
And make taxpayers, Christians, church members, pro-life people responsible for paying for abortions.
And if you make it free, people will come.
There's definitely a movement to subsidize abortions, and what we subsidize, we will expect to increase.
As it is, even now, Washington is basically unlimited in allowing abortions, even those into the 9th month of pregnancy, a practice also only allowed by countries like China and North Korea.
These gruesome late-term abortions, and man, when we find ourselves on a human rights list next to China and North Korea, it is a sign that something has gone dramatically wrong.
Meanwhile, Gil is concerned about the influence of celebrity culture.
They will probably elevate the voices of people like Michelle Williams and other celebrities who have talked about how they wouldn't have, their Golden Globe Award and so on if they hadn't gotten an abortion.
One result of all this could be a backlash among the American people. The majority tend to be far more anti-abortion than these proposed moves would allow.
It's going to be more difficult, and we're going to have to do a lot to resist some of the radically pro-abortion things they're going to try and pass.
Still, Carlin remains hopeful.
I think we will continue to see many lives saved and many abortion workers converted, and abortion facilities continue to go out of business at a record rate, regardless of what takes place in the Capitol.
If I was standing in front of the Capitol 30 years ago, there would have been 2,200 abortion clinics in America. Today, there's under 700. We are seeing Americans more embrace a culture of life, regardless of what happened in the elections on November 3rd.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Paul. The San Francisco School Board recently made a cancel culture move. It voted to remove the names of former presidents George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Thomas Jefferson from schools there. Reportedly, the former presidents were presumed by board members to have ties to racism or dishonorable legacies. SafeCalifornia.com's Randy Thomason is here for more on the story. Randy, great to have you back on the broadcast. What has been, I'm curious, the reaction in California to this move by the school board?
It's very interesting. You even have parents of children in the government schools in San Francisco saying no to this. You even have the mayor of San Francisco saying no to this. They want they don't want the words changed. They don't want George Washington School or Thomas Jefferson School being eliminated. And it was done without public comment until the last minute. So this is really an oligarchy of school board members who are radical leftists who want to start a race war. They are the ones that want to say, hey, all blacks, you hate whites because all whites hate blacks. That's a big fat lie. And I'll tell you, Christianity does not allow for race distinctions. We should be seeking a colorblind society. That's how we have peace. And this eliminating of presidents' names on schools because they happen to be slave owners in the 200, 300 years ago. This is absolutely going against America. These were genius founding fathers. They ought to be respected for the good they did.
Yeah, and Randy, they also are going after Democrat Senator from California, Dianne Feinstein's name. They want her name to be removed as well, right?
Yes, because it was said that when she was mayor of San Francisco, that she allowed a Confederate flag on the flagpole in San Francisco. Here's the point. This whole deal here is like Project 1619 from the New York Times. They're trying to ignite racial hatred by teaching, in this case, little children that whites are bad, blacks should hate, and that is the opposite of Christianity. Remember, in the New Testament, it's taught that all Christians should have their identity in Christ, that there's neither Jew nor Greek, not slave nor free. And again, for someone to say, well, my identity is primarily in my race, or I have identity as a slave when I've never been a slave, that's a big fat lie of the devil, and it's being demonstrated through the sons and daughters of the devils who are on these government school boards.
Yeah. Real quickly, Randy, tell us what is the danger of this cancel culture movement, and what can folks do to counter it?
Well, one, speak against it. The danger of it is what we've said. It goes against Americanism. You are an American, not identified by anything else primarily if you are a citizen of this country. And you need to understand that our Constitution is good. We have equal opportunity in this country. We should never go toward equal condition, which is a communist ideal. And we have to understand also that in the government schools, the leftists have taken over, and this is nationwide. You can't say God created you or God created the universe in any government schools. And in California, there are 11 sexual indoctrination laws. So use this as another opportunity. If you're angry about the government schools changing the names of schools, and this is not just San Francisco, it's happened in Berkeley nearby. It's also happened in a Los Angeles school district. It's going to happen more. Use this as an opportunity to get your kids permanently out of the godless government schools and into homeschooling or church schooling You're learning that the teacher unions don't even want to have children in government schools because they have a new communist agenda of saying, let's destroy society using the COVID crisis as a punting project.
Okay, Randy, we'll have to leave it there. Randy Thomason with SafeCalifornia.com. Thank you so much for your insights. COVID response teams, Dr. Anthony Fauci used a morning briefing to say he believes the best way to ward off COVID mutations and spread is by getting vaccinated. Mounting concern as health officials try to assess how widespread multiple coronavirus strains are here in the U.S. One causing the greatest concern right now is a strand originating from South Africa that has now been detected in South Carolina. Officials say it's more contagious than the original virus and less susceptible to vaccines on the market.
Well, the one in South Africa, George, troubles me.
My biggest fear at this moment is that these variants are going to take hold and really take off across the United States. And if that happens, we're going to see a huge spike in cases, lots of infections, lots of deaths.
Right now, the Biden administration is working on getting millions of more vaccine doses into the system and calling on even retired healthcare workers to help administer them. A post on Christian singer Carmen's Facebook page says he's improving every day. His blood pressure dropped to nearly fatal levels last week after he experienced internal bleeding following hernia surgery. In recent years, he's battled cancer and called on fans to pray for his healing. The Facebook post also said he's ready to get back to his ministry. Coming up, the killer of American journalist Daniel Pearl goes free in Pakistan. Reaction to the move and whether it was done simply due to a legal technicality. We'll explore that in a moment.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to the broadcast. We head overseas where Pakistan's Supreme Court's decision to acquit the radical Islamist men involved in the brutal killing of American Daniel Pearl is drawing widespread shock and condemnation. Pearl, a reporter with the Wall Street Journal, was kidnapped back in 2002 and later beheaded. Now, the man accused of beheading Pearl, Ahmed Omar Saeed Sheikh, is set to walk free along with 3 others involved in the kidnapping. Pearl's family called the decision a complete travesty of justice. The White House was also critical of the court's decision.
The United States is outraged by the Pakistani Supreme Court's decision to affirm the acquittals of those responsible for Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl's kidnapping and brutal murder, which shocked the world's conscience in 2002. This decision to exonerate and release Sheikh and the other suspects is an affront to terrorism victims everywhere, including in Pakistan.
Pakistan's Supreme Court said it will release a detailed explanation for its decision in coming days. Joining me is Hassan Haqqani, former Pakistan ambassador to the United States and now a senior fellow with Hudson Institute. Mr. Haqqani, thank you so much for coming on the show. So Pakistan's Supreme Court says that investigators didn't follow lawful interrogation procedures when the assailants were first arrested. What do you make of their argument?
I would believe their argument if it was consistently applied in all legal proceedings in Pakistan. Unfortunately, when it comes to dissidents and people considered enemies of the state by Pakistan's security services, procedures are routinely not followed. So I do not think that the court's arguments are the real reason why it acquitted the accused.
My second question is probably going to lead to your answer in terms of what was the real reason. You wrote in the Wall Street Journal today that acquitting Daniel Pearl's killers is part of Pakistan's dance with jihadism. Can you explain this?
Pakistan was the staging ground for the jihad against the Soviet Union during the 1980s. The US supported that, if you remember. But then later on, the jihadis went on rampage around the world, and Afghanistan became home to Al-Qaeda. The Taliban were supported by Pakistan during the 1990s because Pakistan thought that they would help Pakistan in its rivalry with India. All of those factors have made Pakistan a home to many, many extremist jihadis. Mr. Omar Sheikh, who is the gentleman at the heart of this Daniel Pearl case, Daniel Pearl murder case, he helped Pakistan's intelligence services run certain operations in India, where Pakistan has a dispute over the Kashmir region. And so therefore, a lot of these people who are wanted by the rest of the world for terrorism are actually seen as regional and local heroes by Pakistanis. And that has been the dance with jihadism that I talk about in my Wall Street Journal article.
Mr. Haqqani, research shows terrorism in Pakistan has declined, but is the underlying roots of Islamic extremism still thriving?
Absolutely. And while terrorism that is directed at Pakistanis has subsided and the Pakistani authorities have done a good job of shutting all groups and individuals down that were attacking inside Pakistan, Pakistan has been relatively reluctant to act against groups that operate outside of Pakistan. It's almost like saying, as long as you don't do bad things at home, we are going to look the other way if your targets are outside of Pakistan, especially those like India that Pakistan considers an enemy.
Real quickly, has Pakistan's government under Imran Khan done anything to stamp out this extremism within their borders?
Mr. Imran Khan called Osama bin Laden a martyr in Pakistan's parliament. He has called the Taliban heroes for resisting foreign occupation of Afghanistan. That kind of discourse actually helps the Islamists, even though Mr. Imran Khan also says that he's not one himself.
Okay, Mr. Haqqani, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Hope you'll be back again, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Folks, we'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30. Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life,
how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone. I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Well, January is almost over, and many of us may already need a reboot with our New Year's resolutions. Well, there's an app for that if one of your goals is to grow your faith. Studio 5's Ephraim Graham talks with Judah Smith, pastor and chaplain of the Seattle Seahawks, about it. Take a look.
Deeply distressing or disturbing experiences. Yeah, that's 2020. That's pretty accurate. In fact, even into 2021, we see disturbing developments in the news in Washington, D.C. or other places, and we ask ourselves, when is the trauma gonna stop?
That's just a tiny sample of a Judah Smith sermon, and he joins us right now to talk more about the Faithful app. Before we get to the app, real quick, I know you've launched a series at your church on Jesus, on trauma, and in light of what we went through just last week, not even to mention 2020, it seems timely. Why focus on Jesus, on trauma right now?
Well, trauma seems to be from the professional world. Those who study brain health and mental health are telling us that that is kind of the word for 2020. Trauma, of course, meaning a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. And they're saying collectively, we have all gone through that. They're saying things like compassion fatigue is setting in. Empathy fatigue. It's very difficult for us now to empathize or be compassionate with one another. And so in reality, we're dealing with, yes, a pandemic, but we're also dealing with another critical crisis. And that is that we're all experiencing emotional fatigue as a result of the trauma. So we're trying to speak to that and see the faith, hope, and love that comes through the person of Jesus.
And a platform or a place for us to at least work on that process daily is the app Faithful. I've been doing it now. I've got my daily faith goal. I haven't quite climbed as much as I should for today, but I'm going to get there. Tell me about the app.
Well, you just said it right there. That's exactly why we built it, because I think all of us feel a little behind. We feel like we're not doing enough to grow spiritually, to grow mentally and emotionally. And I think the Faithful app, we put together a roster of over 50 of the most considerable preachers, teachers, and thinkers in the faith space. And this is an opportunity in a matter of 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes a day, you can experience incredible progress. For instance, you can see a verse of the day, and there's one of those incredible teachers and preachers who for 2 minutes will explain one verse to you. And that alone could help you throughout your day. And so I think all of us feel a little bit overwhelmed, like I'm not doing enough, I'm not growing, my faith isn't progressing, I'm in quarantine and COVID is so overwhelming. And this is the application that we're saying, hey, listen, tell us what you're going through. We're going to give you curated content served up every single day from some of your favorite communicators to help you take at least one step of progress on the given day you're in.
How would you compare this to other spiritual apps, if you will, that are out there? How do you think this is different?
Well, for instance, 50% of millennials today are watching their faith-based content from YouTube and a few other platforms. And the challenge for that is those platforms are not specifically designed like ours is to curate for you the content that actually is tailor-made. For instance, on YouTube, you can be watching one of your favorite preachers, and then YouTube will suggest potentially another communicator that has a completely different world, religion, worldview, or even theology. What we have done in our simple onboarding process is you'll be able to get the content from the communicators who is consistent with your belief system that I think will really, really encourage you in your journey. And there's a very diverse roster of leaders that we're really proud of.
If you could right now, before we let you go, give us a word for the day in terms of if I'm tuning into this, if this were my app, what would you say in light of what we're going through right now?
Well, I would say that you're doing better than you think you are. And I think we all just got to give ourselves a little bit more credit. And I know people don't like to do that, but that's where this whole thing begins, that you are of value and worth and dignity. That's why you're sucking oxygen on planet Earth. There is a creator. He designed you for a purpose. He is so proud of you and he loves you and he's not mad at you. And you're not behind like you think you are. You're not the person that you think you are. You're doing great. And we're all going through extraordinary amounts of trauma that are frankly beyond our understanding. And today is a brand new opportunity to take one little step. Don't get caught up with the destination. Life's not about the destination. It really is about the journey. And today is an opportunity to take another step.
We take that. Thank you so much, Judah Smith. The app is the Faithful app, and we certainly appreciate your time. God bless you.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Former NFL player Ben Watson is known not just for his 16 years in professional football, but he's also known as a strong Christian. The father of 7 spoke at an Evangelicals for Life event, saying the gospel is the most important part of the pro-life message.
We want to show people the gospel. We want to point people to the gospel. And the lie, but also the stereotype of many that will consider themselves pro-life, is that they don't care about life after. We know that not to be true for many, but we also know that when the world looks at us and sees that, we need to show them that we care about all mankind from womb all the way to the tomb.
Important message. Watson showing the love and compassion of God is what will change people's hearts on the issue. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Find out more anytime on news, anytime on our CBNNews.com app, as well as our channel. From all of us here, goodbye and God bless.